Hey, MCE crew, the Russian ruble has gone from zero, quite possibly hero. It looks like the Russian ruble is in a position to become the de facto world reserve currency. You heard me right. And a lot of folk over here in the United States and in the other Western powers are saying, oh shit, what happened? And they are taking steps to kind of interdict this. I don't think they can stop it though, because what has happened is Russia has broadcast away for countries and governments to remove themselves from US dollar hegemony. Now, we're going to get into that in a minute because you need to know how to navigate. And that's what we talk about here is how to navigate. And sometimes you need to navigate through rough waters. Somebody telling you that the waters are rough is not doom and gloom. Let me address something real quick. Most of the financial channels that I follow are new media, okay, YouTube, different types of blogs and things like that. I don't watch Bloomberg. I don't watch CNBC. I don't watch Fox Business, okay? I don't mess around with corporate media. I like to delve into this because there's much more information, solid information coming from the independent media sources that YouTube likes to try and cut off. Go search for any financial topic and you're going to get old media, establishment, authoritative sources for the first 50 pages. So, tell you a little story. When I went, I did skydiving at one point in my life. And I never did tandem where the guy straps to your back. And no, wasn't for me. I wanted to be responsible for the whole thing. And when I went to my first advanced free fall class, yes, you can take 6 hours of training and then jump out of an airplane. When I went to that class, they made it clear that you were responsible for saving your own life. They made it clear that in a few hours, you were going to be going up 13,000 feet, jumping out of an airplane, reaching 120 miles per hour on the way down. And if you didn't do what you were taught, you were going to die. And that wasn't doom and gloom. That was just actual fact. And they even said, look, if you're not comfortable with this, you can either get your money back right now, or we will give you a tandem skydive where someone else is responsible for saving your life. Okay, but you can still get the thrill. Doesn't work that way in finance and economics. You have no one that's going to ultimately be responsible for your economic well-being. There is no tandem person that's going to strap themselves to you and pull the parachute and make sure you're okay financially. So what we do here and what the new financial media does is we give brass tacks. It's not doom and gloom. It is, look, this is taking place. This is important. This is stuff that you need to be aware of. Now, I'm addressing that because I'm seeing more of that. And I even talked with someone who's a good friend, actually. And they were like, it's doom and gloom. No, you're just not comfortable with it. You're not comfortable with what's going on, with what's taking place. But you better get comfortable with it because it's happening whether you like it or not. So having said all that, let's get into Russia turning the tables on these sanctions and putting themselves in a position where, for now at least, they're looking like they're headed toward having the de facto world reserve currency.
If you listen to the Gold Fix, Russia announced they'd be happy to accept Bitcoin and gold for natural gas in lieu of rubles. So there's a couple things going on there. The most obvious one is that's bullish for Bitcoin and gold. The second level is he's implicitly telling you that on some level he has gold, because that's what they do, and Bitcoin indirectly as a instrument backing the ruble. So that's what he's saying indirectly. He's saying my currency is going to be backed by gold and by Bitcoin. That's what he's telling you. So although it'll never become a reserve currency, stated reserve currency by governments, it will become a de facto reserve currency.
All right, so we're starting to see a kind of a death by 1,000 cuts starting to take place with regard, that death by 1,000 cuts focused on the U.S. dollar. Because what we're seeing is Russia broadcasting the template and the mechanism to vastly reduce dollar hegemony. And they're doing this by saying, look, there are other mechanisms out there by which our countries can trade with one another and are widely recognized. Gold, of course, being one of them. Bitcoin being the other to an extent. Now, to some degree, Russia has been doing this sort of thing with China for a few years now. In 2017, it was reported that Russia had been doing oil for gold deals with China using blockchain for the gold verification. So they've been kind of dabbling in this, perfecting their processes for, about 5 years now. So they were prepared. I think, one thing that we miss in the Western philosophy is the long-term view. We talk about 5-year plans over here, and the East, they tend to look at things, especially China, on grand scales of 50 to 100 years. We think of it, we're very individualistic in our philosophy. The East is very collective in their philosophy. So as an individual, of course, 5 years is something that you can grasp because it's within your lifetime as an individual. But if you have a collectivist mindset and a collectivist philosophy, then you're thinking generationally. You're not just thinking about what is going to occur with you. You're thinking your children, their children, the country a century from now. That's how the East is approaching it. And remember, Russia is a country with 11 time zones, part of which goes into the East. Okay, if you go to certain Eastern Russian provinces, it's very difficult just by sight to tell a Russian from an Asian person or a Chinese person even. There are even some disputes, believe it or not, between Russia and China about certain land masses that China believes it owns. Vladivostok, I believe, is one. So what they're saying is, we as Americans, okay, we definitely don't want China and Russia to be able to establish this new financial infrastructure, but it looks like they're moving full speed ahead in trying to do just that. Mid-March, Russian lawmakers backed the international use of the Russian alternative system for the global financial messaging network SWIFT. You heard a lot of talk about SWIFT, this messaging network that has been used by the West. Russia's been locked out of it. China's looking at this and saying, hey, if we invade Taiwan, we're going to be locked out of it. So what they did was Moscow created its own. And they did so with the intent of eliminating the risk of Western sanctions. If you're locked out of the bar, maybe you create your own bar, okay? That's what Russia has done. As the system has proved to be viable and efficient, it draws interest from both Russian and foreign players. It is proposed to give any legal entities, Russian and foreign, the possibility to use it. Russia has held talks with China, India, Iran, and Turkey about joint use of Russia's financial messaging system. Now, Turkey's an interesting one because Turkey's a part of NATO. But they're talking to them saying, hey, look, guys, you saw what happened to us. You see how easy it is for the United States to disagree with an aspect of your foreign policy and then exercise financial control over you. You may want to, if not disconnecting from SWIFT, you may want to at least have a backup. And it would be insane for Americans or for the Western powers to say you can either do one or the other. But it would be consistent with the behavior that especially the Biden administration has demonstrated so far throughout this Russia-Ukraine conflict. We have cut our nose off to spite our face, okay? And I wouldn't put it past someone in the UN or NATO or the IMF to tell Turkey that they had to choose. You had to either, as a member of NATO, you got to either be a part of one or the other. Then how do you think more nations would look at that and say, wow, the Western powers are being very absolutist in their thinking. Do we really want to be a part of that? And I believe most would say no. Now, the U.S. is fighting back, and they're trying to get in the middle of the Russian gold transactions. Basically, what they're doing is the U.S. and its allies are moving to block financial transaction with Russia's central bank that involve gold, aiming to further restrict the country's ability to use its international reserves because of Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine. Putin has been building his gold stockpile since 2014. So again, you're seeing, if I'm in China and I'm Xi and I'm looking at this, I'm saying, this is very interesting. The behavior of the United States of America in terms of what they're doing to get in the middle and really interdict Russia's ability to prosecute their economy. We've got to be more independent. We did the video talking about how China wanted to be independent in all things. Self-sufficiency is their goal. Do you really think they want to be self-sufficient in just food and energy? No, they want to be financially self-sufficient as well. The same thing we want, and we push financial independence here on the Money Changes Everything channel. So there's no way that these countries are going to allow or just sit back and watch the United States run roughshod over their financial independence. Russian gold purchases increased in 2014 after the U.S. issued sanctions on Russia for Putin's invasion of the Crimea. So back then, they said, look, we got to become more independent. China has been buying gold at a prodigious clip as well. Now the country holds 100 billion to 140 billion in gold reserves, which is 20% of the holdings of the Russian central bank, according to U.S. officials. So I would imagine that's a pretty fair figure, although we probably don't have it down exactly, because Russia and China, they're not going to let us know exactly what they're doing. Additionally, the Bank of Russia announced on February 28th, shortly after several Russian banks were removed from the SWIFT bank messaging system, that it would resume the purchase of gold on the domestic precious metals market. Now, this also has some ramifications for Bitcoin as well, because Bitcoin's out there, and the United States can already get in the middle and interrupt those types of transactions. It's an electronic network, okay? You can't hack gold in a vault that's in the middle of Siberia, protected by, a unit of the Russian Spetsnaz. You can't hack that, but you certainly can hack Bitcoin. Someone can wake up the next morning and discover that their digital wallet is empty. That has happened. So how could Russia use gold to evade sanctions? Well, that should be obvious. The U.S. says that Russia can and has used gold to support its currency as a way to circumvent the impact of sanctions. One way to do that is by swapping the gold for more liquid foreign exchange that is not subject to current sanctions. Another way would be to sell the bullion through gold markets and dealers. The gold could also be used directly to purchase goods and services from willing sellers. I want you to take note of that, okay? Because while I personally do not think any portfolio should be 100% in gold, it does definitely have a use in many portfolios. You do your due diligence, decide if it has a use in yours, because as you can see here, it is widely recognized and it has purchasing power. So the U.S. announced to the U.S. announcement to block gold transactions was done alongside Group of 7 and European Union allies that will also impose a gold reserve ban. New guidance from the U.S. Treasury Department states that American individuals, including gold dealers, distributors, wholesalers, buyers, and financial institutions, are generally banned from buying, selling, or facilitating gold-related transactions involving Russia and the various parties that have been sanctioned. So you got to also understand that they can do that. They've directed this toward American individuals and organizations. But just like with Cuba, we don't trade with Cuba, but the rest of the world does. Okay. Now, that hasn't helped the Cuban economy because they are Soviet-style communists in a world where the Soviets have relinquished Soviet-style communists and said that it doesn't work, and Cuba's still running with it for some strange reason. But if they changed up, trading with the rest of the world, not trading with the U.S. wouldn't be, a great big deal. We don't manufacture anything anyway, okay? So this is what America and the Western powers are thinking about doing, or have done, to try to interrupt Russia in terms of its gold sales. But look, the rest of the world wants Russian goods. It got to have Russian goods, energy, food, okay? And some parts of the world remain traders with Russia. So I've just been putting all of this out here to kind of give you another view of the changing landscape and how this thing is going to play out, especially with regard to the chipping away of dollar supremacy. We've already talked about how that's going to affect you personally and your personal economy. I would be preparing for a world in which all of these entitlement programs, if you're an American, like Social Security, Medicare, I would be preparing for a world in which those are not necessarily going to either be there at all or be there in the amount you may have thought they would be. I would be preparing for a world where a lot of the luxuries that we enjoy right now, including food, okay? The hardest part of many Americans' day, do you know how much, when I was a firefighter, I was a volunteer firefighter, and do you know how much time we spent on a shift deciding what we were going to eat for lunch or dinner? I mean, it was like a time consumed because we had so much to choose from, okay? An embarrassment of riches. So those kinds of things we could see you as a citizen needing to become much more self-sufficient in order to maintain your lifestyle. Again, I will close this out by saying we have got to change the definition of wealth. Wealth in this country, whether you like it or not, is no longer going to be defined as I always say, the Mercedes S500 in the driveway of the McMansion and red bottom shoes, okay, all of that materialism. There's a difference between materialism and wealth, okay? In America, you can have the accoutrements of wealth and be flat broke. Most people who are driving around in these big cars are flat broke. They have no assets. The acquisition of assets, that is the true definition of wealth. And one of those assets, as we move further into this new environment, this new world order, as Biden said, is food security, okay? Are you able to replace a great degree of your calories when we get these food shortages that, again, Joe Biden, Emmanuel Macron over in France, and Chairman Xi over in China, all of these powerful world leaders have said, look, we're going to have food shortages, okay? It's not a conspiracy if they're talking about it, all right? So, guys, that's all for now. I will talk to you soon. To learn more about how you can achieve financial independence, check out these videos we recently posted on the Money Changes Everything channel.